Today we're going to be working on my Rawrr Mantis X. I just want to clean up the look a little bit and get rid of some of this green and gray, since these decals are starting to peel around the edges in a couple places, since I do ride this bike in wet conditions quite often. And I also want to figure out a permanent brake light solution that works with the brake levers. I'm just going to be using a heat gun to heat up all the vinyl and loosen up the adhesive under it and slowly peel it back. Hopefully it doesn't leave too much residue on the plastics. Comes out pretty clean. I'm gonna save some of these and put them on my toolbox. So far, I think it's looking a lot better this way, though it did leave quite a bit of adhesive and just some dirt residue all along the edges where the vinyl is already coming loose. So we're just gonna clean up the whole bike with some glass cleaner. So I've been reviewing the factory wiring diagram for the Rawrr Mantis X to try to figure out how we can hook up a taillight assembly with a functional brake light, one that turns on when you press the brake lever, not just one of those rechargeable bike lights. And I think I've got an idea of how I want to hook it up. This bike actually already has a built-in voltage step-down converter, which makes sense since it has a LED headlight on it already. So you can see there's 60 volts going in and then 12 volts going out. So I'm probably going to be using this green wire coming out of it as a constant 12 volt power source, and then the black wire I'm probably going to tap into that for the ground. And as far as a brake signal switch, I'm probably going to tap into this purple wire going to the controller. So you can see it's labeled brake switch and it's hooked up directly to the two brake levers. The taillight that I decided to go with is this one by Nylite. The reason why I went with it is because it's supposed to be super easy to install. It's only 3 wires. Black is for ground, red is for the brake signal switch, green is just the running lamp or constant 12 volt. So when the bike is on, it's on but kind of dim. And then when you apply the brakes, it'll get brighter. It also comes with a built-in license plate bracket, but I'm actually going to modify that and use it as the actual mount to put the taillight on the bottom side of the rear fender. If you are interested in getting more information about this light, I'll have it linked in the description below. So this is where majority of the wiring is. We got to take this cover off to access the controller harness. And then I believe a couple of the wires for the voltage step-down converter might be under this cover. I haven't really seen too many people tear into these bikes in full detail, so we will just have to find out today. As far as mounting the taillight, I was hoping to mount it on this panel, but it appears that it's welded into the subframe. The lock housing might actually be the perfect panel to mount it onto. It unbolts pretty easily, it just takes 3 bolts. Now that we've partially taken it apart and confirmed that there's nothing to be damaged on the inside of this housing, I'm just gonna drill 2 holes so we can mount the taillight assembly. This panel is also the perfect option because of this access hole right here. We can just use this to feed the wire harness through inside the bike.
Going to line up the bracket towards the very rear edge of this panel because I want it as far back as possible to make sure it's very visible. I'm just going to drill through the holes on the bracket with a 3/16 bit since I'm going to be using 3/16 rivets to mount the tail lamp on. And just like that, the bracket is fully secure on the panel. But it does look like we have to drill a third hole to fish the wire harness through. I'm gonna try to make the hole as small as possible. So I'm gonna snip these connectors off and we're gonna squeeze the wiring through there because I want this as watertight as possible. I'm gonna start with a 3/16 and see if that fits. Nope, we're gonna have to go slightly bigger. I'm gonna go with a 15/64. Yep, that's a nice tight fit. Now I'm gonna fish the 3 wires through the hole on the front of that top panel. And that is a perfect fit. Looks super clean, the wiring's all tucked. I just gotta reinstall the 3 torque screws on top and we're finished mounting the tail lamp. That is exactly where I want it. And we don't have to worry about water getting in because the clearance between the plastic and the insulation is super tight. And then we're just gonna run the wiring through this way. The 4 screws on the top panel are T25 Torx. Okay, so this definitely is a voltage step-down converter. You know what? There's actually a connector that's not plugged into anything labeled taillight. We might not actually need to tap into anything else. Now, if they already had wiring in place, I don't know why they wouldn't just sell that as an optional accessory. Well, I unfortunately don't have this matching type of connector, and if I were planning on undoing the taillight in the future, I would definitely use that, but this is going to be a permanent solution for this bike, so I'm just going to tap straight into the wiring. Okay, so there are 6 wires coming out of that, which seems a little excessive for a taillight connector. It is possible that they pre-wired it for maybe turn signals in the future, but we should only need to tap into 3 wires here. Black is likely going to be the ground. And I'm going to start with testing the red and the green. So good thing I have a voltmeter so we can test each wire individually. I just did like a process of elimination type of test. The blue and the green wires read 4.5 volts when keyed on with the ground. And I was wrong, black is actually not ground in this situation. It appears that white is the ground. And when I have the positive on red and ground on the white, it reads 12 volt when the ignition is keyed on. And when I press the brake levers and I have the positive terminal on black, it reads 12 volts. So the black is going to be the brake signal in this situation. Red is constant 12 volt and white is ground. I'm going to cap everything else off. So I just added a 22 gauge heat shrink connector to the 3 wires that we're going to be using. And then I capped off the 3 wires we're not using individually, and then I heat shrunk them together to set them aside. Now I'm going to extend the 3 wires from the taillight to go through the frame and inside this little pocket, just to make sure that it is tucked nicely. I'm going to pull the battery out before we continue doing any sort of wiring though.
Here's a closer look at how I was able to fish the wiring through. I went through here, it came out of this hole, and then I fished it through behind this panel, followed this cable, went under the frame, and then now it's in the pocket under the ignition. Okay, so we've already established that the ground from the bike is actually the white wire. So I'm gonna hook up the black wire from the taillight to the white wire. Green is the constant 12 volt on the taillight. That's the running lamp. So I'm gonna have that hooked up to the red wire coming from the bike because that is the constant 12 volt power source when the ignition is turned on. And last, the red wire from the taillight, I'm gonna hook up to the black wire on the bike. And just like that, it is weatherproof. And now we're just gonna tuck it in place and put the panels back on, throw the battery in and see if it works. All right, there it is, guys. When the bike is on, it is dimly lit. Press the brake, gets brighter. Key off, key on, apply brake lever. And luckily the bottom side of the seat base has this curve to it behind the hooks. So as you can see, actually nothing makes contact between here and here. So there's nothing that's gonna get caught on the seat. There's also this ledge to keep it from getting pinched. And then it is fully tucked inside the frame into the bottom side of this panel. You know, I actually got a message from Sonia at Rawrr not too long ago to let me know that the app's been updated. So you should now be able to connect to the Rawrr Mantis X to make changes to the tune. So it turns out we can now have regen on the Rawrr Mantis X, which has been a common complaint. A lot of users said this bike was lacking. So I'm curious to see what kind of effect that has on range. I also want to know what kind of changes we can make to the tune on the stock controller with the updated app. I'm assuming at least throttle curve, top speed on eco, regen aggressiveness, but I wonder if we can make power delivery on race mode even more aggressive. So if you're interested in those results, make sure you stay tuned to this channel. If you found today's video helpful in any way, do me a favor and hit that like button. And if you like this kind of content, want to keep up with some of my projects, such as the Rawrr Mantis X, the Talaria, my razors, the Tudio, make sure you subscribe to this channel and turn your bell notification on. But this is going to be it for today. Thank you for watching.